What's going on YouTube? Earth Power here, bringing you guys a deck tech. So, this is the Warlord Ailzonius deck I was mentioning in a couple videos ago, one of the few deck techs that I've wanted to do for a little while. I finally threw it together, and I'm still iffy on the numbers for this. I'll just go through it real quick. So we've got, for 2-drops, it's Emerald and Belix, pretty weak for 2. Like, this is a deck that wants to go face. Ailzonius is just a very, very powerful double breaker. Like, you want to get it out on 5, and then it's almost impossible to take down, for most decks, for a couple of turns. Only because they just can't target it. They can't choose it whatsoever, so they can't bounce it, they can't destroy it with Terror Pit. They just can't target it. They can attack it, but they can't target it. So there's not very many cards outside of, Slayers, but as far as, the very, very limited meta game that we play, here with CVH and Gorby, there's really no Slayer. So Ailzonius, if it drops on 5, it's almost impossible to take down for quite a few turns. You just have to build a barricade and hope that, or just outrun it. So this deck, takes off very fast. It takes a lot of the tools from a lot of the other tempo decks that you've seen on the channel thus far, namely the light water tempo that, focuses on Crazed Valkyrie. Ailzonius is just kind of a 1-over on that. It costs 1 less mana, and it comes out, it just comes out swinging. Like, Crazed you can play defensively or offensively, and Ailzonius is just pure offense. It comes down, and there's not a lot your opponent can do about it, except hope to outrun it. So with that in mind, the 2-drops don't really cater to that, but there aren't really any better 2-drops in these colors outside of maybe like, the 2 for 2,000 guys that, you can drop and play, but even Water doesn't have those, and the ones in light aren't really beneficial to that. So Belix is like our pseudo Sarius, helps play defense a little bit, can get back Holy All if, that goes down early, or later in the game and you need to get it back. So that's like a cool tech that, this deck has that regular light water doesn't, as a pseudo win condition later in the game. If you top Belix, it's not just, a Sarius that's going to drop and do nothing and just kind of be bait for your opponent's removal. Moving on to 3-drops, Hulkus is pretty standard. The water section entirely is just incredibly standard. You guys see this in every other water deck we do. The only thing is that we increased Emerald and Illusory Merfolk to, or Illusionary Merfolk to 3. Only because our other 3-drop, Electro Explorer Sirion, who knows, is also a Cyberlord. So you've got 11 Cyberlords in this deck, which, regular light water doesn't. You just kind of have to max Emerald and Kirill and hit off Merfolk, which is already very doable, but now we have a 3 for 4,000 3-drop that already is a threat, and now Merfolk lets us draw off of it, which is why we're not playing Magris in this deck. Magris was bait for Crazed Valkyrie, which made it a good thing in light water, obviously, and it served 2 purposes, draw engine to progress you in the hand and on the field, and provided bait later in the game. This deck doesn't have that. It doesn't, there aren't any gladiator versions of Magris. So increasing the Merfolk there, Merfolk and Hulkus are only 2 draw engines, and in a 40 card deck you really don't need that much, but, Illusionary Merfolk plays, it baits the Cranium Clamps, which are ever rampant in every dark deck ever. So, and then speaking of Cranium Clamp, this deck has another out to that in Bingol, the Explorer. Is also a gladiator, and it reads, when this creature, oh, good lord, look at that blur. When this creature is discarded from the hand during your opponent's turn, you may put it in the battle zone instead. So, opponents knowing that you're running Bingol are less likely to loco you and clamp you early in the game, because all of a sudden you get a free 4 for 3,000 power creature that puts you right into Ailzonius, especially if you're, on lead and you're playing, you're not playing on the draw, you went first. They look out of Bengal, all of a sudden you've got the free bait for Ailzonius, and here he comes. So, this deck's got a lot of advantage over the regular, I say regular, over the, standard light water deck that you've seen with Crazed Valkyrie, against dark decks and control decks, just because it plays a lot of tempo out between turns 3 and 5, and almost every single one of its cards is anti-dark, which is fantastic. The flex spot in this deck, though, really is the Colon, the Oracle. I put it in here to give us 12 shield triggers, Kaijudo terminology. It was so hard for me to get over Duel Masters terminology when Kaijudo came out, and now I just can't get Kaijudo terminology out of my head. Like, I want to say Storm Spark Blast instead of Holy All, which is crazy, because I said Holy All for, like, the first year that Kaijudo was out. But anyways, that was off topic and quite a tangent. But Colana's my flex spot. I don't know if it's better served as something else. Like, I really want to try Unicorn Fish in this, just because this seems like the deck that I'd want to put it in. But Colana gives us another trigger. It fills out our 4-drop slot, and it provides, what's the word I'm looking for? Spot removal when Ailzonius is on the board. Because basically Ailzonius just cleans up boards. It's really hard to stop, and it can just pick things off one at a time until you're ready to go in with, the rest of your dudes. And Colon and Holy All, cater to that. If you're not already, in a tempo lead and winning, Ailzonius comes down, and if your opponent's not, if you're battling for board position and your opponent's a little bit ahead, Ailzonius helps you clean up, and Colon and Holy All, play into that as well. So, that's what they're all there for. 3 emeralds for 12 shield triggers, opens us up. Little airplane going over. But either way, this is the deck. Let me know what you think, if you guys have any suggestions. We're playing 12 Gladiators. One card that I did maybe want to put in here was Canasil. It's just another Gladiator, fills out our 3 drops, but, it doesn't really serve any other purpose other than to be bait for Ailzonius, and I think these 3 do it better. But if I'm missing a Gladiator, if I somehow overlooked one that's fantastic, let me know. But the only other 2 I can think of right now are Canasil and I think it's Teletol, the Explorer. It's a 4 for 4,000 blocker, I think, that lets you look at your shields. But that seems pretty terrible. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. And yeah, stay tuned for another deck tech in the next few days. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but I'll continue to keep it a secret to keep you guys on your toes. And then after that one, we'll figure out what we want to do. So hopefully, guys, I will see you next time. Peach.